Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I know I said that we would do this on Thursday, but I got distracted. So we're doing it on Friday instead. Last week, or maybe it was early this week, I posted about wanting to come in here and talk with you guys about flights a little bit, some secrets and how to make sure you pay more money for your flight than you absolutely have to, so that if you know the ways to spend more, you can do the exact opposite and kind of spend less. So let's get right into it. And the first thing I want to talk about is where you should be booking your flights, because that's the question that I get asked about flights absolutely the most frequently is, where should I book a cheap flight? Who has cheap flights? There are no cheap flights, not anymore. Yes, there are things that are affordable, but when it comes to like, should I book at Travelocity or Expedia or through you? Who has the cheaper flights? The answer is that they're all going to be within a few dollars of each other. So you don't need to make yourself stressed out and check 15,000 sites and be terrified by the little red fine print that pops up and says 2 seats left, hurry and buy now. They want you to buy so you don't go elsewhere. Not necessarily because they're higher priced, but because flights kind of are what they are. And that's because after 9/11, we made a whole bunch of laws to make it harder for people to hijack planes to harm us, right? Unfortunately, those laws kind of tied the hands of airlines and travel providers as far as what they're able to do, how they're able to compensate their travel agents, and et cetera. So since 9/11, the airline industry in some ways is ridiculously micromanaged, right? And totally secure, and the lines for security are ridiculous. But in other ways, 9/11 made flight planning incredibly unchecked, in my opinion. Airlines do not really have to justify what they are going to charge you. They get to set their prices, and it's kind of a monopoly, really. They can tell you that it costs money to take baggage, whether it does or not. So if you're looking for the website with the best airline pricing, if anyone tells you they have better or so-and-so is the best site, they're just kind of marketing to you, because these prices are managed by the airlines and the airlines alone. They don't have to have sales in order to fill planes, so quite often they don't. Um, and they're sneaky about their sales too. So the first truth that we should know is that when you book a flight, the only place I ever want you to book is directly with the airline carrier. There may be exceptions to this every now and again, but for the most part, 99% of the time, even if it costs you more money, I want you booking directly with the airline carrier. If you have me book air for you, 9 times out of 10, I will go to the airline site directly as a consumer and book it for you, as opposed to doing it through travel agent avenues. And the reason for this is the fares are always going to be ridiculously comparable. $50 or less difference. And that difference is made up by the travel brokers taking money out of their own pocket with the hopes that once you buy the flight with them, you'll also buy a hotel with them and they'll make up money there on you. So the flight for the actual price really is kind of the same no matter where you go. So the reason that you should be booking it directly through the airline provider is that is your one and only way that you're going to get any opportunity at all for free upgrades. So if you don't want to sit in a middle seat and you would love to be upgraded to premium economy for free, or maybe even first class, it's happened to me. That's never, never, never going to happen if you book through a third-party travel site. Never going to happen. So if you like to play your odds and you enjoy getting things for free, you can guarantee that won't happen when you book third party. Always book direct. If an issue arises with your flight and you need to fly standby to come home earlier or later, or anything that happens at the airport, if you have booked third party, the odds of that being an easy transition and like getting anywhere with anyone, next to impossible. There is a pecking order and a priority that customer service will put you in. And when you book direct, you come first. When you've booked third party to save that $7.50 total for all 5 of your family members, they don't care. They do not care. I've experienced it firsthand as a traveler. I've experienced it as a travel agent. Please book your flights direct, even if it costs more. As a travel agent, I am now at a point where I won't book you with a third-party site. I'm happy to help you find the best flight prices out there. That's another thing. I'm not allowed to be paid commission on flights. So if I want to get paid for finding you and booking you a flight, I have to charge you an external fee. Lots of travel agents do this, but that's kind of not how we roll in here, right? I don't like charging you those fees. If I charged you those fees, you wouldn't book with me anyway. You would just go book it on your own, so I don't see the point in it. But since I can't make money off the flights, I need to protect my own self-interest, right? So that means when I book a flight for you, there's liability issues on me, right? If I screw it up, whose responsibility is it? If I put in the wrong date or the wrong destination airport, can you imagine? So I need to be booking directly with the airline because, as we've already talked about, if there's ever a problem with your flight or you ever need assistance and you're booked third party, good luck. Good luck. If you're booked directly with the airport or the airline, still good luck, but your odds are better of actually getting a human and getting somewhere. So when I am your travel agent and I am booking for you, I will happily tell you wherever I find the best price. If it's third party and you want that $5 savings, then I'm going to say, because I'm not making money if you book your flight with me or on your own, but if you want to book third party, I will not do it for you. It just puts too much risk and responsibility on my shoulders in a situation where I have very little control of the customer service of your situation. So my personal travel, and y'all know I travel a lot, I book direct. Anytime I book for you, I book direct. I highly recommend booking direct. So that is where to book. Let's talk about when to book. I think it's so fun. Everybody who wants flights from me, they're always asking me, it's Wednesday, so we should wait till next Tuesday, right? Because I heard that the flights are always cheaper on Tuesdays, guys. Don't you think that the airline industry knows that you think the flights are cheaper on Tuesdays? So what do you think that means happens on Tuesdays when they know everybody's going to be running to their sites to book because they're convinced that the flight prices are cheaper? They've caught on. They're not dumb. They can monitor their interior sales. So there is some truth that booking on the weekends or in the evening is more expensive. I see it every single day. In fact, I have some clients flying from Guatemala to Costa Rica in a month, and I went to book their flights today, and they were $140 per person more expensive than they were on Wednesday. I do think those prices will come back down, and I did advise my clients to wait until Monday to purchase. But do you guys want to know the day of the week that I've been getting the best flight deals for like the last 6 months? Saturday morning before noon. Not even kidding. Conventional wisdom tells you that that's never going to happen, right? Because all of the websites tell you that Tuesday is when you buy your cheapest flights. Tuesday at like 2 a.m., I think is what they say. That has not been true for me in practice. And the reason why is flight pricing is 100% driven by supply and demand. So when their internal numbers start coming back and they see that nobody's buying flights on Saturdays anymore because we're all so trained to think that we know an industry secret about Tuesdays that no one's buying on Saturday anymore. So almost every flight deal that I have got for the last 6 months has been on a Saturday morning. So I don't think that there is any specific day of the week that prices are going up or going down, or that you're going to save hundreds by booking on Tuesday over booking on Thursday. I think what is smart is to track flights and to use a flight predictor. I should grab my phone and show you mine. These things are ridiculously reliable. They track trends over years. And the flight predictor that I use and that I reference when I'm quoting for you guys has failed me once. once it has been wrong. And I use it to book all of my personal flights, and you guys know how much I fly. I use it to price check anyone that I'm sending anywhere. So that's a lot of flights. And for me to have only caught a deal better than what it found for me one time, those are great odds. And those are odds I'm willing to take. Way more than Susie at the grocery store checkout lane saying flights are cheaper on Tuesday at 2 a.m. You got to set your alarm and get up. I mean, common sense tells us if we know it, the airline companies know it, they're greedy and they're going to adjust their pricing structure for when they know you're more willing to buy. So yes, deals are on Tuesday. There's also some deals on Fridays. There's deals on Saturdays. There's deals on Wednesdays. It's about knowing what the trending price is and booking when the trend is low. So how do you know when that is? You use a flight predictor. I really enjoy the Hopper app. It goes on your phone. It's super easy. You can say, for example, I fly to South Florida for work a lot. So at any given time, I have about 50 flight alerts set up saying I can go from Seattle to either Miami, Fort Lauderdale, or West Palm Beach on any one of these 3 days. And I watch them all. And Hopper will just send me an alert and they say, hey, this is the best price we've seen in 6 months. It's not expected to go lower. Book now. And that's the app that has only failed me one time. And I use it for me and for you. Is it a guarantee? No. And I'm always going to tell you that when you ask me. I'm going to say, this is what I expect to happen, but I can't promise it. So, you know, I can't promise you anything, and you're not allowed to get mad at me if Hopper fails for a second time, but generally it's correct. And this is a consumer-driven app. You can put it on your own phone. You can monitor your own flights, and there is no more waking up at 2 a.m. on Tuesday morning to find the cheap flights. Hopper will just tell you when they happen. I'm also a big fan of Skyscanner, which is a website, and it is an app for your phone. I use that when people say, I don't really care where I go as long as the sun is out. So I'll say, okay, well, out of these popular, affordable destinations, what's cheapest from your home airport on these dates? And they make it really easy to search for things like that. So these wide umbrella type searches that used to be impossible, Skyscanner does a great job with those. When you use Skyscanner and Hopper together, that's like AP level travel planning, and that's when you would hire me. But when you do that together, that's when you're going to get your best deals. For example, Chris and I used that last June, and we wound up paying about $700 per person, and that covered our flight from Seattle to New York, where we spent a day or two, New York to Dublin, Ireland, where we spent a little over a week, Ireland to Iceland, where we spent a little over a week, and Iceland to Seattle. So, Seattle to New York to Ireland, Ireland to Iceland, Iceland to Seattle. 4 flights, 4 international flights, and we paid $700 per person. It's not because I got up at Tuesday at 2 a.m. It's not because I'm loyal to Priceline or Expedia. I did book all of those flights direct, booked them direct, and got those kind of prices. So it's about using a good flight tracker. It's about knowing what is a good deal and what isn't a good deal. And Hopper will tell you that. It's easily color coded. So you want to book on green days. That's how it's done. Now, I also told you that I would talk about, I have a list over here. I would talk about how to stretch your vacation dollar. I hate booking flights. I hate it. I love flying and I love travel, but I hate the process of booking flights. I really loathe it. It's so needlessly expensive. So I'm frugal. That's how I got into this, and that's why I'm good at what I do. So how do I make my vacation dollar go further? Here's the secret. I plan my entire vacation around flight times. I don't say, I'm going to go over the week of spring break because it's spring break. Guess who else knows it's spring break or Christmas or Thanksgiving? The airlines. And they're going to go boom with those prices because they know that we have been trained to only fly over certain periods. So they gouge you. And that's what I was saying earlier as far as them being unchecked. There's no reason that it costs 7 times as much to fly over the Christmas holiday as it does any random day in October. It's not more expensive. The gas isn't more expensive. They're not paying their contract workers double time in most cases. it does not cost them more, and they can charge up to 7 times more for a single ticket on peak dates just because you're willing to pay it. So how to stretch your dollar further? Use Skyscanner, use Hopper, see those trending times. And if I'm like for example, I want to take my kids to Aruba. I shared a live video with you guys last November, and there's some fun things to do there. I want to take my kids there. So I'm going to plan our entire trip to Aruba around the cheapest time to get there. If they miss a little school, meh. If it means that I'm there, you know, in March instead of April, that's how you get the flight deal. That's how you save thousands of dollars, is by having the most flexibility that you can. Plan your entire vacation around the cheapest flight date, because I'm always going to be able to find you a cheap cruise, a cheap hotel, a cheap tour, cheap excursions. I can find that cheap any day of the week in my sleep. Not a problem to find a deal on those things. Your vacation costs get out of hand when you don't have flexibility on your dates or your times. I will only fly at 8 a.m. I'm not flying at 10. You're going to pay more. When you have flexibility, and I can put you on those flights that they're having a hard time selling, and they're not even always bad flights, but when you have flexibility about these things, that's when you can really start to make your dollar go further. Another little trick of the trade that I use is I live in Seattle. Does not mean I buy tickets from Seattle to anywhere. For example, that $700 round trip flight that sent me to like 3 countries and 4 destinations that I mentioned earlier, that was not booked from Seattle to New York it was a series of one-way flights. So I booked one way from Seattle to New York for like $100 per person. And then I went from New York to Ireland for $100 a person. And then my big flight was the Ireland to Seattle. That one was $500 a person, and it included a free stopover in Iceland. So that's how I was able to do that for $700. If I had priced that exact same flight from Seattle, it was going to cost over $1,500 a person. Why would I do that? I understand that most people don't know to look for those value gateways, is what they're called. I happened to know that New York is really cheap to fly to Ireland from, and we wanted to get to Ireland. So I also know that it's cheap to fly from Seattle to New York. So I booked my own flights that way and was able to save, in that instance, a total of $1,500. Same flights, same dates, it's just how you book it. And that is when you talk to a travel agent, because I don't expect you guys to know these things. It's my job to know these things. I've been doing it for years, and I'm happy to share that kind of information with people. So, for example, Darcy and Julie, they are spending 2 weeks. They're going to France and London this November, and they wanted to leave out of North Carolina. It was going to cost them $1,500 a person. That is ridiculous. So instead, I sent them on an Amtrak train up the coast because they had the time, and they're going to fly out of New York, which wound up being cheap for them as well. And now they're in business class for less than it was going to cost them coach to go out of their home airport. So oftentimes, even when you have to pay extra or buy an extra flight to get to those cheap gateways, it is absolutely worth the hassle of booking and the additional stopover for the cost savings. That is how you're going to make your dollar go further versus Googling how to save money on flights or which site has the best deals. They don't. It's knowing these industry insiders things. I know them. I'm happy to tell you them. That's why I'm here to help you. That's how your dollar goes furthest. What else do we have here? Be super flexible. We've talked about that. Saver fares. This is something new the airlines are doing, and I really hate as travel agent and as traveler, and I want to talk about it because they're new and a lot of people don't know they exist yet, and it leads to a lot of confusion and frustration. Saver fares are the newest way the airlines are trying to scam you. They know that their prices are too high and it's hurting them. So they're introducing these fares that look more reasonable on paper, and you click buy so fast that you didn't even notice that you're not getting the old economy coach that you're used to. What you're getting is a saver fare or economy light or economy, what else? Sprint. They have all kinds of cute names for it. Here's what it means. It means that you will not be allowed to select your seat prior to getting to the airport. And even when you get there, you don't select your seat. The airline gives you the seat. That means you are guaranteed to be sitting in a middle seat. I once sat in a middle seat because I fly saver fares when I fly by myself because they're super cheap and I don't care where I sit. I had a saver fare and a lady came back. I was seated in my middle seat and a lady came back and said, would you please switch seats with me because I bought the middle seat. And when I got to the airport, they told me I had to take the window seat, but I don't want it. I want to sit next to my husband. These saver fares will always put you in a middle seat. Even if it shows none are available on the seat map to you, you will always be in a middle seat. If that's fine with you, cool. You will also, in that instance, I would say probably 98% of the time, not be seated with your travel party because everybody is sitting in a middle seat. And you're like, well, my kids are a little older. Maybe that's not so bad if I just sit behind them. We save a couple $100. You also cannot guarantee that you're going to sit directly behind each other in middle seats. You're going to sit in whatever middle seat the computer automatically generates for you. I recently watched a mom fighting at first, getting very angry, using foul language, and then literally crying because she booked saver fares convinced that they would not split her and her 4-year-old child up. They will. That's why these are so cheap. So if it's important to you to sit with your party, if it's important for you to get either an aisle or a window, do not book these saver seats. There is no such thing as getting there and bartering with them. It doesn't exist. If you book a regular economy and you can't get a seat, yes, then you can get there and say, I'm not seated with my 4-year-old, and if somebody else wants to babysit her, I mean, but when you are in an economy saver seat, they don't care. They do not care. It's right there in the fine print when you buy, and that's what they're going to remind you of, but you're not noticing it because all you're seeing is a cheap fare, and these are new. They're great for the right kind of traveler, but what I'm seeing more and more frequently are people who don't understand what they've purchased. And that's another great reason to use a travel agent. It's my job to be up and up on this and make sure you're properly informed. How to overpay. I think we've kind of talked about that, right? Falling victim to thinking you know something the airlines don't, insisting on booking only specific days at specific times, direct flights only, having zero flexibility. That's how to overpay. The more flexible you are, the less you'll pay. It's exactly a sliding scale. No flexibility, high price. Max flexibility, lowest price. Wherever you fall on that continuum is how much you're going to pay every single time. No questions asked. Doesn't matter what day you book, doesn't matter where you book. Your flexibility determines how much you're paying, period. Finally, how to spot an airline scam. Remember earlier when I said there really is no such thing as like Travelocity being cheaper than Expedia, being cheaper than Priceline. And now you're going to say, but Mandy, I looked it up and this one was $5 cheaper per ticket. When that happens, it can happen one of two ways. It can happen either because the major travel retailer has too many flights to sell, so they're going to take a personal hit on it and they will make up that $5 out of their own bank. Or it happens because the major airfare retailer purchased a whole bunch of seats in bulk and full many, many months ago. And for whatever reason, they're willing to pass that savings on to you. It's not because they're cheaper. No, it's because they did something behind the scenes. But is bulk purchasing a thing? It happens. My company has some of those kind of contracts, but it never saves you money because, let me put it to you like this. Most people don't do what I do. Most people charge booking fees. Most people are in this to cover their bottom line. I can't blame them. I just want to do things a little differently. So let's say that I was like everyone else and I had these consolidated bulk airfares and they were coming in at $100 per ticket, cheaper than retail. but everybody else is only cheaper by $5. What do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to charge maybe $7 cheaper than retail and put $93 right in my pocket. So is it possible for someone else out there to have a lower price than retail? Yes. Are they going to give it to you as opposed to keeping the profit for themselves? Probably not. So if you're holding on and hoping that you're going to find some secret dark web price that no one knows about, you're just not. You're just not. So Sharon, I see you just joined. I was talking about you earlier and our Guatemala flight here and how it went up miraculously overnight just because it's Friday. So yeah, that's everything I have on my list. It's everything I promised you guys that I would talk about. I was hoping that if anybody had questions, they would pop them in over there, and I haven't seen any. So what I'm going to wrap up with here is I have a kiddo home from school sick today, and I'd asked her if she would come on camera and talk about flights with kids, and she's sick and she doesn't want to. So I'm going to wrap up by talking about ways to help fly with kids. And when I'm done, I'm going to get out of here. So if you have any questions that are flight specific, rumors that you've heard, things that you believe, a whole other live for another time is how to fly on miles. We'll do that later. But otherwise, pop me some questions over there in the comments, and I'm going to talk about flying with kids. So flying with kids, first of all, don't book saver fares because you're not going to be sitting with your kids and it's going to make you mad and it's going to scare them. The biggest thing to know is that flying with your kids is scarier for you than it is for them. Even if they look nervous, they're going to take their cue from you. So if you make flying a fun thing, they're going to get excited. If you are like, are you nervous? Are you scared? Are you going to be okay? Do you need to sit with mom? All of a sudden, they're going to be terrified too, and you're going to have a horrible experience. So as with many things in parenting, when it comes to flying with kids, specifically young kids, they're going to take their emotional cues from you. So I would encourage you to be upbeat and positive and excited, even if on the inside you need a Xanax. Where to sit on the plane with kids, I would encourage you to sit back by the bathrooms. Oddly enough, first of all, those are my family's favorite place to sit. We love to sit by the bathrooms. That's where all the cheapest seats are too, by the way. If you're with an airline that requires you to pay for your seat, the cheapest seats are always back by the bathroom. I don't understand why, because I think they're the best seats on the plane. When you're flying with your kids, they're going to have to pee at least once, mostly because the bathrooms are tiny and adorable and they want to see them. And once they see how cute they are, they're going to need to pee 2 or 3 more times. And you're going to be lucky if they let you go back there with them, A, and B, you ain't never going to fit in there with them. So when you choose a seat that's back at the back of the plane near the bathrooms, it's so much easier for your kids to use the restroom on their own and for you to feel safe and secure about letting them go on their own. You're also closest to snacks and beverages because the air hostess station is at the back. So if your kids have ear popping issues, a good way to get around that is to give them chewing gum or frequent water drinks. So sitting at the back of the plane is really great for families. You're also going to be one of the first boarding groups after first class because planes fill from the back up. You will be one of the last off. I think that's a small concession for everything that you gain by sitting at the back of the flight. Other things for kids, pack water bottles. But Mandy, we can't take more than 3 ounces of fluid through security. No, but you can take an empty water bottle and fill it up as soon as you're on the other side of security. This gives you a drink to help with popping ears. You know, kids like to eat and drink just when they're bored. This gives them that. I always pack snacks in my kids' bags. Before we leave, I'll hit the Dollar General and buy cheap activity books, mostly because they're new and kids like things that are new. We have child-sized neck pillows for red-eye flights. We fly red-eye a lot because it's cheap and I'm frugal. Make your kids carry their own book bag. That way, they will not pack more than they can carry. It is heart-wrenching when I see these kids with like book bags that are bigger than them and all the toys that mom allowed them to pack for comfort. The kid can't carry the bag. Mom is overburdened and stressed out. And then because there's so many toys, you can't keep track of them. And inevitably a favorite toy will get left on the plane. It's happened to me and I'm a travel pro. So make sure that the kids are able to carry their own bag. That will self-limit the amount of toys and carry-on that they'll take with them, and you're less likely to lose things. It makes everybody a happier camper. Highly recommend that. That's probably my top tips for kids. Kate had a question, a whole other live. When do you get free discounted flights on a cruise and how booking that works? Kate, depends on the cruise line. I know you're asking for Norwegian because that's where all you're booked with. The Norwegian free and discounted air program is like brand spanking new. So as agents, we're still kind of learning how a lot of that works. With Norwegian specifically, if you know you want the discounted air, I would add it at the time of booking because you can always remove it. Minding my P's and Q's here. I told Norwegian this, so I'll tell you this. Norwegian's discounted air 9.5 times out of 10 is more expensive than retail air. Remember what I told you? People are going to how to spot a scam a mile away. They're going to tell you these things because they know you're going to trust them. So my advice to my clients who get discounted air is that you should add it because then you know what your metric is, and then use Hopper or Skyscanner to make sure you're tracking retail. And when retail falls below their discounted air, we drop your discount, you book retail, and you save money. So that's how that would work. What else? Oh, also Norwegian has recently changed it to where I can actually book your flights per person, because it used to be, let's say there were 4 of you in a cabin and only 2 get discounted air, right? The other 2 were sold at their retail. If their discount is higher than real retail, can you imagine how high their retail is? And so it would actually wind up costing you more money to take their free air than to just book 4 retail tickets. So they've now changed that to where I can only buy air for 2 people. And then you can go through and buy the other 2 people retail. If you do that, you need to make sure that you're booking 1 adult with 1 kid, which kind of messes up your whole perk schedule. So we would need to talk about that. The reason you do that is because Norwegian Air, around work, we're calling it Mystery Air 101, because I don't get to pick your flights, you don't get to pick your flights, I don't get to pick when you leave, when you arrive, how many connections you have. All I can tell you is you are leaving sometime on this day and you will make your ship. That's all you get until they book it for you and it's too late to back out. So I would only book it if it represents a significant cost savings. Other lines that I've used air with, however, like Holland America, their air program blows my mind. It's so good. I was able to get a client round trip air from Chicago to Fort Lauderdale for $7. They give you an allotted amount, and their prices truly are discounted and incredibly flexible. You can change your mind a million times. You can choose the exact flights. And if the flights you want are above what they've allocated for you, you pay the difference, however much that is. And for her, it wound up being $7. So she paid like $7 per person round trip. It was just one of the perks that was afforded to her. So different cruise lines have different air. It's unfair to judge them all by the same. Does that answer your question, kinda? Let's see. So it's a figure it out as you go thing. Kinda, Kate. Yeah. So now that I know how to do it, we can price out for you what it would look like, and then we can check retail. We can use Hopper to see what Hopper expects to happen, and then we just make the best choice for you and your individual needs. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Norwegian Air with their cruises. Norwegian Air, the airline, I am a big fan of, actually. But Norwegian Air, through their cruises, I'm not a fan because you have no control, and I'm kind of a control freak. Okay, so I don't see any other questions. I've talked about ways to make flying easier for your kids. I went through how to save money, how to find great deals, how to spot a scam, how to make sure you overpay. That's all I have for you. I know a lot of people are going to come back and watch this on replay. Feel free to comment. I'll answer those too, even after the fact. That's it. That's my 2 cents on flights. So the big takeaways: book direct and don't believe everything you read online. Okay? All right, guys, we'll see you later. Bye.